I would like to introduce a number of faces and bodies to go with them that I'm sure all of you know all of them. First, in order of how they're sitting, Mr. Warren Fahey, please give him a big hand. Judy Small. Next guy, I can't quite remember his name, but I think it's something like Martyn Reed. And Mandy, Connell. What I really want to do, we've got about half an hour, just basically to chat and talk. So I think what we might do is just pass the microphone across, and if each person just sort of gave their thoughts about watching that. It's basically watching the history of the Australian folk scene for not just the 60 years of the National Folk Festival, but really pretty much from the mid or even early 20th century right through till this year, really. So the thoughts that it brings to you, and yeah, and then we might continue after that. For starters?
We'll never stop.
I'll be quick. I'm just grateful I'm not in it. But it does make you feel old. It is a bit depressing.
You are in it here and there.
I am in it. I'm in there with the funny thing. Well, not funny at all, but I counted 7 people who were in my group, the Larrikins, over the years. That makes me sad. All my comrades in collecting, like Wendy Lowenstone and Bob Michelle and all that, that obviously makes me sad. Another great lot of them I recorded in some way or got them into the ABC studios for programs. So I think I knew about 90%. So it was in some ways depressing, but also to have them up here and memory remembered is also wonderful.
Well, I once heard someone go up to Pete Seeger at a folk festival in America and say, "Oh, Mr. Seeger, you make me cry." And he said, "Oh no, we don't make people cry. We just let people cry." Well, that let me cry a lot tonight. Tina Lawton, who was the first female Australian folk singer I'd ever heard, who taught me that Australian women could do this stuff. Archie Roach, of course. Alistair Hewlett, so many. Huey MacDonald, who produced and arranged 4 of my albums. So many of them I knew, not as many as you did, Warren, but so many of them I knew and loved. And it's so sad to see that they're gone. And like you, Warren, I'm very glad that I'm not in it yet. We're still all on the right side of the grass, guys, and that's a good thing. But Bruce, congratulations, and what a wonderful idea, what a wonderful contribution to Australian folk music this video is. So thank you so much for doing that and for bringing back all those very happy memories as well as the sadness. Thank you very much.
Well, I think it's
got light.
Wow!
what do I do with this? Is this all right. Where are they?
Oh my goodness! Nothing, Michael's fixed it.
I just want to, Judy's just said it, but I think it's immortally important what Bruce has done. I think absolutely fantastic. And it is, the memories keep coming back with every person you speak, not all of them, but a lot of the people you see there, and they're, I'm not going with it. Yeah, they're absolutely brilliant. There's one thing that triggered a bit of a memory was with Glenn Tomasetti, and I think it was probably the last time I was over here. I was singing in the outback somewhere in some very isolated area. And I did this song and I introduced it as saying, I learnt this song from Glenn Tomasetti, and then sang the song. And then at the end of the evening, this bloke came up to me and he said, thank you for mentioning Glenn Tomasetti. She was my mother. And it was a fantastic occasion, but I think absolutely wonderful to see all these people, and especially Tina Lawton right at the start, because we were all passionately in love with her. And I still am. She was lovely. There's so many wonderful singers and musicians, and the great thing is that those singers and musicians and Bruce have kept this music going, because by doing this, people can look at the pictures and hear the music being played and just fall back in love with it. So, well done. Yeah, I'll pass you on.
Well, as the token baby on the panel, 43, still being roped in as the baby. That was the longest I've managed to sit down and watch that. And I had thought that it was because I'm a bit, I don't know, like maybe it's perimenopause, maybe it's ADHD, but like my concentration span doesn't always, but it's not that. This is my uncles and aunties. Okay, so I started today doing an interview with Ruth Hazelton, who is immediately kind of above me in the generations, but was also the person I wanted to be when I was growing up in folk music. The first young person I saw doing traditional music in Australia, and they followed directly on from Eliza Carthy and Nancy Kerr, who followed on from the Watersons, you know, Norma and Martyn and the Carthys. And I feel an intense kind of push and pull between the older generations and the younger ones now. And what I want to say is that something is happening now that I wish had been happening when I was 20. And what you're doing is representing the amount of energy that you guys who are next to me on this platform and all of those people that we loved, and I don't know how many of you recognised most of those faces, but a lot of them poured so much energy into teaching the younger generations, and that's now happening at the 60th National Folk Festival, and it's so wonderful to see that there's an intergenerational thing happening again with power. I mean, it never went away. Folk didn't die. I'm aware. It's not like, I'm the Messiah and I came along from the youngest, but there is certainly now a new power in the traditions, which is so, which might be the only thing that's going to save me after watching that in one solid hit. How dare you ask me to talk in front of people in public after watching that?
The intergenerational thing, I think, is a really, really important thing. And I think if you look back, to the folk revival, there were those older people that are, the people that were born like in the 1920s or 10s or so on, who were the younger people of the folk revival were learning from them. And I hope that's what's happening again, because I agree. And I may say this festival, over like a couple of decades, has worked really hard at making it intergenerational, and it was not successful for quite a long time, but in the last 8 or 9 years it really has been, and it's a fantastic thing to see as someone who's getting a bit older myself. So the next thing I just want to ask you all is that, I guess it links in or follows on from that, is just about issues of change. What you notice is the same and what is different in the folk scene from those early days of those, we saw people in the start, and now and into the future. What is it about the folk scene that is constant, and what is it that's been changing to perhaps reflect or even influence broader trends in Australia and the world?
I think it's worth noting that there's a distinct cut-off point in the middle of all this. When we started to go to folk festivals, I didn't go to the first one, I went to the second one, and I performed at many since, and attended many.
Just can I interrupt for a second? Anybody here went to the first one? Is there anyone
The distinct change is that somewhere along the line, the internet appeared. Prior to that, we were people who met each other at various festivals and occasionally at folk clubs, but we didn't see anybody right through that year. So there was a camaraderie that happened at the festivals. Nowadays, we feel connected to each other through folk chat lines and all sorts of internet areas that, for good or bad, do reinforce us as a community. And I think that we do have a unique community, and it's something we should be proud of. And these people here represent the transition from when we really didn't know each other, but we felt we did know them when we saw them every year, and we became very close as a community. So I think that, yes, this festival over the last umpteen years has changed the demographic and also appealing to the areas that we never talked about in the past. For example, there's a session on queer folk on Monday. It was there but never discussed. And these sort of things, and just the way we now look at people with disabilities. We just don't see them as somebody different, they're just part of us, and the environmental impact of these festivals has changed. We've become very responsible. So just so many positive things have happened and will continue to happen, which is just fantastic.
Well, what a question this is. How have things changed and how have things not changed? One of the things I love about folk music today is how it is changing. How people are taking songs and making different things out of them. We're still singing about people, we're still singing about our times, and I think that's what defines music, folk music. It documents our times. And that's been the case right from, the beginnings of time. That's what happened in England, in Scotland, in Wales, in Ireland, in France, in Germany, in South America. It documents who we are, where we are, what's happening to us. And we're still doing that. That hasn't changed. What is happening has changed, but that hasn't changed. One of the other things I think that is wonderful is what I call folk process. For instance, I hear people say, oh, that's not folk music. That's not folk music. That's not the way they played it when I was a child. A few years ago, well, it was a while ago now, it only seems like a few years ago, the Troubadour Foundation made an album of my songs, which I thought was lovely, and had other people singing them. And one of those was Mandy Connell, who did her version of From the Lambing to the Wool, my song about the woman who I wrote about from two places. One was, I was listening to Eric Bogle sing Now I'm Easy one night, and thought what a wonderful song that was, and I wondered what the wife's story would have been if she hadn't died in the second verse. and so I wrote From the Lambing to the Wool. And Mandy recorded this for this album, this Festival of Folk Sings Judy Small album, and it's so different from the way I wrote it. And it's still my song. It's still the same song. It still has the same message. It still has the same story, but it sounds different. And I love that.
The melody, the melody is
Well, the melody's still a bit different. This melody's... But wait till you hear Ruth Hazelton. You know, go and listen to Ruth Hazelton. What she's doing with folk music at the moment is really exciting. Some people will say, oh, that's not folk music. Oh, that's not... But I love the way it's evolving. That maybe it's not what... But what I sang, what I used to sing, maybe that's not what people would have called folk music when, you know, when Warren was a boy. You know, Warren's older than me. What can I say? Warren's older than me, and so smart. When you know, people didn't sing about women's issues. People didn't sing about the environment. People didn't sing about, you know, disability and stuff. And now they do.
When I grew up,
yeah,
they did. And
that's right.
People who were they was you.
Yeah, well, we were. And that's great. So they're the things I love about the tradition, and that I'm so proud. I am so proud to be a folk singer. I think this tradition is one that is a wonderful tradition to belong to. And I'm so grateful to have been part of it for so long.
And for the future as well.
Indeed.
I think that the thing that I really like about folk music is that most of the songs have stories to them, and the stories then evolve into themed concerts you can do, like we've been touring with Warren, Marcus and Gary, doing the Bushwhack, Bothered and Bewildered. And it's just a thing which Warren put together. We did another one a couple of years ago, I Don't Go Shearing Now, which was all shearing stories. Yes, it evolves. And back in England, we do a show now, which we've done for 50 years. And it's called Maypoles to Mistletoe. And it tracks the year through folk song, Morris dancing, stories, narrations, customs and things. Like the first half is spring and summer, and all the songs are relevant to whichever season the spring and summer is. And then we have Morris men dancing to bring in the May, and then the ladies Morris team, the Magog ladies, they dance, ladies go dancing at Whitsun, and then in the second half it's autumn and winter, and we finish the show with us singers singing Good King Wenceslas, and both Morris sides dancing, and we have a maypole as well, and we also have a huge bunch of mistletoe. And at the end of the show, we lower the mistletoe down, and the audience comes along, and they all take a sprig of mistletoe and put a donation in the box, which all goes to St. Catherine's Hospice. And it is a fantastic... People come up to us and say that their Christmas doesn't start till they've seen Maypoles to Mistletoe. And this is all due to folk music. It's the stories and the songs, the traditions, and everything, and the performers as well. And I think it's so it will keep it going, and I'll pass you on.
It is a very big question. I grew up mostly under the Brunswick Music Festival and coming to the National Folk Festival. I was a pre-teen, and I've gotten to do pretty much, I think, most of the things that the folk music circuit has to offer. I made friendship bracelets and sold them as a busker as a kid. Made more money than some of the musicians. It was pretty fun. I have buttered toasties and sold nachos, and became Andrew Patterson's right hand setting up the wine bar, the Troubadour. And then he put me on a stage in front of... I got given what we call kind of a shiner spot. I got 15 minutes before James Keelahan for a packed audience at the Troubadour for a National Folk Festival, and that was really my debut. But I've also gotten to be involved in the sessions, and as a quite young child, I watched Archie Roach, and I watched the Hungarian dancers, and I watched the Italians, and I had a first front row seat to the magic that was the Rembetica scene in Melbourne, the Greek traditional music meeting the Irish and Scottish traditions in the Retreat Hotel on Sydney Road, which is where Paddy Montgomery comes from. You can look him up, he's playing with Dallahan. I have sampled a lot of the things, and I owe many of my favourite moments to the four of you. I danced a lot, very small, to Bruce's shows. I used to argue there was a massive interruption in the tradition and in the scene, but I'm not sure I was right. There was a blip, but I think partly that is because there weren't many people in my age group. I was born in 1982. In the folk scene, there actually aren't that many of us in my age group. There's a few older and a few younger, particularly we're looking at the Rigby's, the Mays, the Wisers, all of the various fiddle camps and traditional schools. But yeah, they're mostly older and slightly younger. So I would say probably the chip in my shoulder has more to do with the fact that I was just slightly out of both generations than a real interruption.
You're a bridge.
Yeah, which is why I feel like both generations sometimes ask me interesting questions, like, why aren't young people playing in the folk festivals? And I'm like, they are! You just have to... So, I guess the power for me comes in the mix of stories. And for me, I really come from an Anglo and Celtic background, but I get really sad. I get seasonal depression if I don't have other cultures and languages around me, and I think that's because I grew up coming to places like the National Folk Festival, where we had African bands and we had factions from the left-wing and unionist political movement who spent ages not just fighting and campaigning, but actively being pains in the arses of programmers and directors to make sure that we had multicultural music and we had queer music and we had other options. And I have so much to thank all of you for, and I don't even know where to start. And again, damn you for making me watch that and then get in front of people. I have so much to say about it. I also am going to help release some recordings from the 1982 National Folk Festival, where Colleen Burke also talks about these topics, but I'll be talking to all of you guys later. But I don't think I can talk much more about this without breaking down. But again, what's happening with the folk scene now is because of all of these guys. But I know your faces, and it's all of you too, so thank you very much.
I just want to say something about one thing that is changing and has changed over the time that we've all been in the folk scene. And it's not just the folk music scene, it's music in general, is the way music is heard when we're not together. You know, it used to be 78s, those of us who remember 78s. Then there were LPs and cassettes came along, so we could actually travel with the music and take it with us. And then CDs, and then Walkmans came, and all that. And now, of course, people listen to it online. If you were at the Flute and Fiddle this afternoon, you would have heard a wonderful song that Windborne sings, which says basically that we're more than 0.04 cents a play. You know, you can't make a living on 0.4 cents a play. And it is true that the way we listen to music when we're not together has changed enormously over time. And I would just really encourage you to realise that what Spotify pays is 0.4 cents a play to the artist. That's what we get every time you play. Less than that, is it? After 1,000 streams. Once 1,000 streams comes, then they pay us.
Worse than that, their whole economic system is
Yes.
based on the idea that you will pay someone to become part of their playlist
That's right.
as an aggregator for Spotify. Yes. They are assholes. Please quit Spotify.
Also, the guy who runs Spotify yes, use Bandcamp. The guy who runs Spotify also invests in armaments and in the weapons industry. My stuff will be taken off Spotify as soon as it can happen. I don't know about you, but my stuff is now all on Bandcamp. Everything I've ever recorded, including some that aren't on albums. So, and I think Mandy, you're on Bandcamp. I know Ruth Hazelton is. They pay well because you buy. You can pay. You can listen to some things for free for a while, and then we ask you to buy. So it's just different. It's not better or worse, except that when I was working full-time as a folk singer, when I was touring full-time, I made about half my living from selling CDs and LPs and cassettes. The other half was made from live performances. Nowadays, I would hate to be a young performer starting out because everybody has to put their stuff up on the net somewhere, and I don't know how they make a living anymore.
Actually,
That's one of the things I was just talking about to say that has changed.
The young ones are now asking you to. The young ones are now asking you to subscribe to their Patreon accounts or various other subscription services, and it can feel a bit scammy at first if you're not used to Patreon, or you're like, why would I subscribe to one artist and pay them a monthly fee? Well, it turns out, I mean, I resisted it for ages, but it's a great way to give back. Most folkies who have a Patreon will pretty much give you free access, but you can nominate however much you want to spend a month, and they will give you access to things that you wouldn't necessarily get. Things that you might more likely get at a folk festival like this. So you get access to new songs or collaborations and things like that. But Patreon and these subscription services are how some of the younger ones are making money, and we're turning this into a sort of an industry meeting, and I don't know why we're doing that.
But I'm old-fashioned. I just passed that.
Bullshit! I'm calling bullshit. You started Larrikin Records. Don't tell me you're not in the industry.
I still have a record company.
Exactly.
Roustabout.
Exactly. He started the record company. He started folk music record recordings in this country. Don't tell me it's not an industry, Warren Fahey.
Oh, look, it's really funny. I still have a record company called Roustabout. And we do things like Declan Affley, Colin Dryden, and we put out 200 and something albums. And the uncomfortable thing about it is that the majority of the income comes from Spotify. And there's nothing we can do about it. We've started to put albums on, like Dave DeHuga, on Bandcamp, and hope that it works. But frankly, the return for an independent record company or an artist is just so minimal. It's hardly worth the expense of doing it and administrating it. But we all feel that we have to have music out there. So it is a really troubling time, but the world's troubled. I was an idealist. I always thought that the world would be a really nice place when I'm in my 80s, but it's just horrible. I mean, thankfully we live in a great country and where we can escape part of it, but I can't tell you what it does to me to think that we're spending billions on submarines and we're engaging in supplying drones and things to wars that we don't agree with. I mean, the world is stuffed up. Music, you know, how artists survive I don't know. I mean, there are rays of light. I look at this young bloke, Jesse Wells, in America, and I go, oh my God, you know, that's what we need. But, you know, he's making it work. I don't know about financially, but he certainly makes it work with cultural change, because here's somebody saying something in a very folk style. And it's certainly, as an old bugger, it's affecting me, and I think, oh God, he's nailing it.
Thank you, everybody. Now, our time is just about up, but I just think after that last, I mean, it is a bugger of a world at the moment, there's no doubt about it, but we are at the moment in amidst 5 days in a perfect world. So that at least is something. But maybe if you could just each end with a quick little positive message about the future of folk. That would be a really nice way to end. And if you have to pass, then pass.
I'm just saying that I know there's going to be a continuing. This is going to be a continuing program, and I don't want to be continuing yet.
Exactly. The first thing to say is the tradition is not dead and will not die, as long as there are people who care about what's happening in the world and about documenting it in songs.
I think it's the pleasure of not only the music, but performing in front of people like yourselves that keeps us going. And just a quick story about the folk musician who won, I think it was $1 million on the lottery. And they said, what are you going to do with it? And he said, I'll keep touring and singing till it all runs out.
I can't believe it's still only day 2. Please go and see Mimi and the band. They won the Blackboard contest, and I just saw them play on my way trying to get out of Bohemia. They're new, no one knows about them yet. They're great. Mimi and the band. Charlotte Eckel, go and see Claire Perrott, go and see all of the younger acts that you haven't heard of. And please go and see Ruth Hazelton's amazing fusion thing. I have so much hope and so much joy, and I don't know how I'm going to sing for the next hour and a half, but thank you, all of you. How much fun was this?
Yeah, how much fun.
And go and see Mandy in about 1 hour.
Yeah.
Is it the Bohemia?
Bohemia, yeah.
Yeah. And everybody else here at different times. I just want to say one last thing. If you want to watch this video again, just go on YouTube, or better still, I've created a website around this, and it's got links to the resources that I use, including, Warren was a very, very important source in this. But the various websites I got things from and organisations and so on. So if you want to follow up on any of these people or this sort of thing, there's a heap of information there, and I will keep adding to that as I get time to do that. I will at some point do a little supplementary video. To find it, just you can go from my website. It's probably the best because it's a free website. It's a Google website, and it, strangely enough, doesn't seem to come up easily on Google, which is sort of interesting. But if you go through my own website, which is Bruce Watson Music, on the homepage there's a link to that website, and from there you can watch the video and do anything you want. And you can watch it in small doses so you don't get overwhelmed as well. And you can also make comments, discussion and so on. There's a little forum page on that too. So thank you very much to this panel. Please give a big thanks to Warren, Judy, Martyn and Mandy. Wonderful to have you. Thanks to the festival for giving me the opportunity to show this, and enjoy the rest of the festival. Thank you so much.